Well, good evening. My name is Jeremy Staley. I'm with CEC, and we're a consulting firm that works for the City of Tulsa on their traffic calming program. We've been working with the City of Tulsa since 2015 in this program, and I appreciate every one of you being here with us today. This is indeed the Neighborhood Traffic Calming Program public meeting for East 44th Street from South Columbia Avenue to East 45th Street. Again, my name is Jeremy Staley. With me on this meeting is two people from the City of Tulsa, Michael Van Slyke and Russell Bausch. They both work for the City of Tulsa in their traffic group. And also with me tonight is Jordan Bryan. She is an engineer with us at CEC and is getting more familiar with this program. I'm going to lay out just a few ground rules and then I'll begin with this presentation. First, this meeting is being recorded and it will be posted on the City of Tulsa's YouTube channel for other people to be able to view and to provide any comments for a certain period of time before we wrap up this project and move on to construction. I'm going to ask if everybody could please mute themselves during the presentation and hold your questions until we get to the end, and then you're welcome to ask any questions at that time. If you do have some questions that pop up during the presentation, feel free to use the chat box and type your questions in there. It's possible that Michael or Russell might be able to answer them during the presentation, or if anything, it'll have those questions all queued up. That way you don't have to remember what they were by the time I'm done. Not like this is going to take a very long time. But okay, so this project started when Mr. Griffin submitted an application for traffic calming in April of 2017. And by doing this, Mr. Griffin became what we call our traffic calming advocate for the street. He was the one responsible to keep pushing this project forward and coordinating and working with CEC in the City of Tulsa. So we got to do the traffic study in April of 2017 as well. There are two warrants that are primarily required in order to qualify a project for traffic calming measures with speed humps. And there's the first one is the 85th percentile speed during that study must be at least 5 miles per hour over the posted, or in some cases unposted, speed limit. Most of the neighborhood city streets are 25 miles per hour. Therefore, if the speed exceeds 30 miles per hour with the 85th percentile, that qualifies and warrants. The second is the average daily traffic, or ADT as we call it, must be between 600 and 5,000 vehicles per day. So on this particular project, we had the 85th percentile speed of 33.3 miles per hour. And I know that sounds like that, well, it wasn't a whole lot over 30 miles per hour, but that's pretty considerable. And in some cases, we had tracking speeds well over 50 miles per hour, people speeding on the street. Also, the ADT on this project was 735, so it well exceeded the minimum 600. Now, if the project passes those two warrants, there's a few more qualifiers or factors that must be considered to determine if the project is eligible. The street shall provide access to abutting residential properties, meaning that this is not meant for commercial areas, predominantly for residential properties. If there are apartment complexes along the way, that whole complex only gets one say in the petition process, whereas the homeowners or renters, whoever's living on that residential property, they all get their say as well. The street shall not have more than one lane in each direction. This is not meant for arterial streets, it's meant for residential streets. The street segment must be at least 300 feet in length. The street shall have curb and gutter to prevent vehicle runarounds. If we've got very shallow bar ditches, the city learned a long time ago not to put speed humps out because people just drive around them. Having curb and gutter in places along the street will prevent people from jumping the curb and trying to get around. And last, the speed humps won't be located on a residential collector street where at the ends of the street, you've got traffic signals on higher classified roadways. And that's because this thing would be considered a higher class roadway and would be negated from being able to move forward with a speed traffic calming project. Once the project warrants and it passes those additional eligibility factors and construction funding is available, the next step is to move forward with the petition and endorsement process. So the petition process consists of providing our traffic calming advocate with a list of street addresses along that project And a successful petition must have at least 80% of the people living on that street within that list of addresses we provide them. 80% of those residences have to be either in favor or against it. And 67% of that total number of residences along the whole street have to be in favor of it. So it takes an overwhelming yes to move forward with this process. And furthermore, it takes a very high number of people that have acknowledged and either say yes or no, because we want to make sure that the majority of the people on the street have heard about this project moving forward. And in this case, we had 81% of the residences that both signed the petition and were in favor of it. So a large proportion of the people were definitely in favor of this. If the street segment falls within a neighborhood or a homeowners association, and there's a body and authority, a group of officers over that, we have to have an endorsement statement that is signed by the officers of that HOA. In this particular case, there's not a homeowners association that can dictate that. It's important for them to know that doing this work on this one street could affect adjacent streets, and they have to be able to support this project in order for us to move forward. But as mentioned, in this case, we don't have that. Once the petition and endorsement process is complete, we design a speed hump layout. Now that speed hump layout is based on distances, max and minimum distances between speed humps. We try and keep these speed humps, if possible, at a minimum 10 foot away from drives, but if what we desire is to have them 15 or 20 foot away from the drives, each individual drive adjacent to the speed humps. Secondly, the distance between these speed humps, we limit the max around 600 feet. And the reason for that is history has shown us if you allow that space to get even longer, people will gun it. They'll drive over the speed hump and then they'll accelerate real quickly and then slow down, hit the next speed hump and speed up again. We call it gunning. And they do that. And as a matter of fact, years ago, the city of Tulsa had some criteria that's more stringent than it is today. And so there were longer gaps between speed humps. And well, now we're going back and trying to retrofit those in to eliminate those speeding areas within the speed humps. Let's see. I believe I am ready now to share my screen with you, and I will show you the speed hump layout and discuss what the speed humps look like and striping and everything. So let me share my screen real quick. Can everybody see that okay? I know some of you are muted. Russell, can you see that okay?
Yes, I can see it.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so we've got match lines on these sheets. You see a match line A and match line B. North is pointed up, and on the top left view, we've got South Columbia Avenue where we're starting. And so the speed humps are these big black rectangles, and then you can see the distances that we have from the streets. Typically, we try to put the first speed hump within 150 to 250 foot from the beginning and the ending of the street that we're doing this on. Between them, we try to get them spaced 250 to about 600 foot. We try not to extend that 600 foot longer than that because that's when they start gunning it. So when looking through this very first speed hump, we have it right in between the drives at 207 East 44th Place and 2720. Now, I do know Mr. Hughes provided me a good aerial of this. The aerial that we show on these plans is dated a few years. And so he provided me some changes on here, and they're not incorporated in here yet, just to let you know, but we've been able to move that. The second speed hump is just south of 2749 East 44th Place. This match line B will continue over here on the top left of the very next sheet. So we've got two more speed humps, one to the west and one to the east of South Evanston Avenue. And then we've got another speed hump just south of 2929, if I recall, that is where Mr. Hughes is located in this area here. And moving on to the next sheet, you'll see a match line D. That moves us over to here. This is where our longest distance is here. We're getting close to pushing 600 feet. And just to let you know, Mr. Hughes, we're going to be able to shift this thing back over to the left toward your west property line. It's actually going to extend our distance a little over 600 feet. I think we're around 620, but that's the best we can do because it's hard to fit a speed hump anywhere in this area because of the way the drives are on both the north and south side of the street. And the very last speed hump we have looks like it's over just to the north of 3122 East 44th Place. And we end at East 45th. Now let me share with you what these speed humps look like. Okay, in the middle is a plan view that shows the striping and the speed hump itself in conjunction to the roadway. You can see our curb line here. Section BB is at the edge of the street, and it goes to show that we've got a 2-foot gap from the face of curb to where the taper starts going transverse to the speed hump. And we have a 24-inch taper. We have these gaps in here on the side of the roadway for 2 reasons. One is to allow bicyclists to be able to pass on the side of the street and not go over the speed hump. And secondly, it allows drainage, street water, stormwater flow to easily pass through the speed hump. Section AA is a profile view of what the speed humps look like. They are parabolic in shape on their approaches. They're 3.5 inches tall at the height, and there's a table, if you will, that's 10 foot wide at the top where it's roughly 3.5 inches tall. And then again, it begins to taper back very slowly. These speed humps are designed in a manner to allow vehicles to go over them 20, 25 miles per hour. You feel a whoop-de-doo, but you don't feel a jarring, like a hit driving a car. I don't know if it'd be good to hold like a hot cup of coffee as you go over them, but they are not invasive. They're not hard to drive over. In fact, you can drive over in 25. It might feel kind of like a roller coaster, but it shouldn't damage your car. And it keeps you at going lower speed. You try and push 30 miles per hour, it starts to get very uncomfortable, and I don't think it's very good for your car to drive over it that fast. So they're meant to be traversed at a reasonable speed, but not an excessive speed. Now, you'll also notice the markings that we've got. They show chevrons. These are all white painting, white pavement markings, and it gives you a visual marking for where that speed hump is. And secondly, we've got a speed hump sign that is placed right adjacent to each corner. That way you can see it from each direction. And that speed hump sign has a little arrow pointing downward to let people know where that's at. So we've got the pavement markings that show people clearly there's a speed hump there, and we also have the sign. So we've got 2 ways to let people know there's speed hump right there. The speed hump sign also helps whenever it snows. We talked about how all that happened back in February, and then allows the city, if it is a snow plow route, they can plow it and be able to make adjustments with their plow. That way they don't damage the speed hump or their equipment trying to go over it. So it's important to have that sign. Moving on to a few more things here real quick. The funding source for this project is the Improve Our Tulsa 2 funds that were voted on back in 2019, I believe it was. Yeah, November 2019, I believe is when that vote took place. The city set aside a certain amount of money to construct these speed humps, and the speed humps will be constructed by City of Tulsa crews. They're able to construct those speed humps for about 1/6 the price of what a contractor will get paid to do it. Now, that's great that we can get good bang for our buck. The bad news about that is the City of Tulsa has other priorities for their maintenance crews. And so they typically use these projects to fit in with their work. And so they may not get constructed in as timely of a manner as having a contractor do it, but we can do a whole lot more to be able to help the neighbors, the people in the city that need these speed humps put in on their street and go through the process. The city crews do a real good job of constructing these. And I know I said it may take longer to get it done. It doesn't mean that it will take longer to construct them once it starts, because typically when the city starts on it, they will go through and construct all those speed humps. What I meant by that was right now they are filling a lot of potholes from the damage that was sustained from the ice and the snow that we had back in February. And they've been doing that ever since. And so it has slowed down the process of us being able to construct some of these projects that are already ready to start construction. The good news is the city does a good job. And we're very happy that they can construct these for a much lower cost to be able to help with this program. Now, once we're done with this meeting, this video will be placed on the city's YouTube channel. And at that time, Once it's posted, we have 2 weeks for people, the public, to make comments on this. Of course, anybody on this meeting is welcome to share any comments now, or they could email me or call me and discuss those. So I'm going to provide my phone number to you. It is 918-663-9401. And it's 918-663-9401, or you could email them to me. My email address is Jeremy, Jeremy, .Staley, Stahle, at connect, like connect a cable, followed by cec.com. Again, that's Jeremy.Staley at connectcec.com. I'm now I encourage you all to take the share screen off here, and we can bring this back up if you need to ask some questions, but you're welcome to ask any questions at this time. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
I don't know if Dave's still there. I'm right across the street from him. He mentioned to me, he talked to you earlier, and that you had discussed moving the, I think you mentioned it, so I just wanted to ask, moving the speed or whatever, your speed hump to the west.
Correct.
The boundary of his property.
Correct. That is correct. So you live at 2934, is that correct?
Right.
Okay, yes. So it will be like right down his west property line. And I know, David, you asked if it'd be possible to get that sign out of your yard. It won't be entirely out of your yard. It will be west of your driveway over where that speed hump got relocated to. But it's, we located it basically between your drive, Mr. Sewell, and the drive just to your west, about right smack in the center of it.
Okay.
In that gap.
So under my new driveway, because he.
That's correct. Yeah, he provided the location of where your new drive is now. Your drive is pretty close to being right across the street from him. Am I correct?
Right.
The centers are, your drive should be, I think, maybe just a few foot slightly to the west. The center of the drive should be slightly offset from his drive to the north. That was my understanding from that.
Mine may even be to the east of his a little bit.
Okay, but we'll go out and we can verify that.
I haven't seen his fancy drone footage. But
Yeah,
See, if this is being recorded, I would have a comment if it wasn't being recorded.
but I'm not sure flying a drone over our, I think it's illegal. So, but that would be
I've
fine
got
with
attorney
us. I mean,
neighbors.
we're in favor of it. I think it's needed in our neighborhood, but it would be great if we could move it to that western side. I think that'd be great.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I can share that with you here real quick of what we had drawn up, because this is the only comment we've seen is, hey, just wanted to let you know, we've got drives out there different than what your drawing shows. I can go ahead and share this drawing with you real quickly. And you can see where that new location is. Let me share my screen real quick. Okay, so the speed hump in question is this one right here. Previously, this one was about right over in this area, but knowing where these two drives are now, we've split the difference between Mr. Sewell Drive and the one to the west, right in this area, which pretty much runs real close right down the property line on your west side. So that sign will be on the Hughes property, kind of just to the west of the driveway. The sign approaching from the other direction should be just to the west of Mr. Sewell's property on the adjacent property owner to your west.
Okay.
That's fine with me.
Excellent.
That's great. I appreciate you doing that.
You're welcome. And I appreciate you all letting us know that, hey, guess what? It's a little different out there than what you think it is. Typically, once we go through this public meeting and verify that, we go out and we look at everything on the ground before we start painting where these will go prior to construction. So sometimes they may shift a foot or two here or there because we're doing all this off of an aerial, and sometimes things change out there as they dramatically did on this street here. Drives changed quite a bit.
So the process now is this goes to a 14-day comment period, and then if you don't receive any comments or they're not acted upon, then you move forward.
That is correct. Now, the city has had issues with their computer systems, as you're probably aware of, with that cyber attack. I don't know when these videos will be posted. I know certain parts of the city are coming back online. I'm able to utilize that, but I don't know when we'll be able to get those videos posted. I'm hoping in the next couple weeks. We've already got a couple others to post on there too, but once that is officially on that website, then we'll start the countdown.
Okay.
As far as timing wise, we've got one project that's already gone through the whole process and they're waiting for speed humps to be constructed. And then we've got two newer ones ahead of this project. So we've got a total of, once the comment period is done for these two sites as well as yours, depending on, well, they'll all be about same time wise. We'll put them in order that the public meetings took place just because they were delayed by the city's computer systems being down. But with that being the case, this site would be number 4th on that list. And I would imagine this would be constructed sometime during the summertime, which is the best time to do it with asphalt.
Okay, that sounds great. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I know we only have 2 property owners on this meeting.
You're muted, Dave.
Not for me. I'm good.
You're
Thank
good?
you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I'll go ahead and end this meeting. I appreciate your time very much for joining me here tonight. And we look forward to this project moving on to the next phase and getting these speed humps constructed. So,
Thanks,
again,
Jeremy.
if you do have any other questions, feel free to call me 918-663-9401 or email me at jeremy.staley, S-T-A-H-L-E, at connectcec.com. All right. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
All right,
Bye,
thank you, Jeremy.
Russell. Bye,
Thank
Michael.
you, Jeremy. Yep, thank you.
You're welcome.